Hey everybody, welcome back to part number 2 of my 48 scale Tamiya F-14 build, F-14B build. And this part we're going to work on the Ordnance. So we did exhaust last week, Ordnance this week, get all the little bits and bobs taken care of before we get work on the actual main fuselage itself. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so part 1 we did the exhaust. Now part 2 we're going to do the Ordnance. Now those who are new to my channel, quick update and kind of where I'm at with this, and that is I don't build per the instructions for 1 through to 60 or whatever it is. I build in subsections and I really manage my builds and get stuff out of the way first, but maybe later on the build, get the mojo sapper or a lot of work, maybe not quite excited to do. So less exciting stuff for me, like the exhaust is a lot of work with the painting and different weathering and metallics and stuff, and also the Ordnance. So I like to get these built out of the way so then you really focus on the fun part, like the fuselage, get it all painted, weathered, and then you got them ready to go. So at the end, you just simply super glue them on and you're good to go. So this kit is obviously a late A, but we're making a B. Now you have 4 different versions in here. The one that matches most closely to what we're building as a B is actually number C, which is the VF-211 Fighting Checkmates. So scrolling forward here in the instructions, firstly we're going to make the fuel tanks, 2 fuel tanks, pretty straightforward, and I think we do have some aftermarket decals, possibly. They're going to be the fuselage color, and we do have some aftermarket decals in this pack for the drop tanks. And then the loadout, if I go forward a little bit here, so we have A and B, we have a C1, and we have a C2. So C2 is pretty much dumb bombs. That's hard to say today for some reason. And C1's a little bit more interesting, has some paveways, GBU 12 and 16 paveways, Phoenix missile, a couple of sidewinders, and a lantern pod, targeting pod. So that's the one we're going to do. It's more exciting and more closer aligned to what we're doing with the B, as I understand. Again, I'm not an expert, just kind of what I read online and asking some people. So what involves us doing here? Basically, again, we're going to make 2 sidewinder missiles, 1 Phoenix missile, 1 GBU 12, 2 GBU 16s, and 1 lantern lighting pod. So quite a lot going on there, plus a drop tank. So early instructions here, you can see how they all go together. I know from building previous Tamiya F-14s, these Phoenix missiles go together like a dream, no problem at all. Obviously got some paveways to build up, paint up, and yeah, a lot of work here. So again, like to get out of the way, and then we haven't even started on the main fuselage yet. So we'll do this, and then next time we'll do the cockpits up. So yeah, let me get started, get some stuff chopped off the sprues, and we'll go from there. It's the following morning, and we've got all these built up, no problem at all. And as you expect with Tamiya, beautiful fit and no problems at all. Nice looking Ordnance. So we've got a couple of fuel tanks, drop tanks here. I did mark with a Sharpie there, 19 and 20, so I know which side they go on, although it's pretty apparent because of the angle. We have 1 Phoenix missile. We have 1 GBU 12 paveway, 2 GBU 16s, 2 sidewinders, and a lantern targeting pod. Now with this guy, there's a clear part, and you can't quite see, but I did take my masking fluid and with a toothpick, just basically applied it to the round lens. Hindsight, probably sprayed the backside of the clear part silver before I glued it in, maybe, but I think it'd be fine. So that's masked, so don't forget. So yeah, that's our lineup. So nice looking selection, variety there of stuff. I think in the sprues these came on from the F-14D kit, because there were some like J-dams and stuff on there which aren't in these instructions, but they are in the F-14D instructions. So plenty of weapons left over. Got quite a few sprues here, and especially for spares box. Again, they are so nicely. Yeah, look at that. I think there's about 6 parts in this. Yet you can't see any seam lines or anything the way it's built. It's just yeah, very nice. Now saying that, I do notice there is a line in the back, which I'll probably look to fill before I get these primed up and painted. Okay, so painted. A lot of work masking and painting all this stuff. But it turned out really well in the end, and just basically followed the instructions. No real problem at all. Now, I will say with the paved ways, it was definitely easier to paint the center first. I think the combination was 5 parts XF19, which is like a sky gray, and 1 part khaki to get this kind of color. So those guys were painted up. Again, paint the middle, then you mask it, paint the outside olive drab. No real difficulties there. Sidewinders painted up, and it is nice because the part here is raised. So with the side of, excuse my dirty fingernails from painting, with the side of the paintbrush, just run it over it, the raised part, and it paints it. No, not too bad at all. So sidewinder's done. We've got the Phoenix done. Just went with sky gray again, white for the tip. The pod's done. Just again, once we finish with this one, we just need to peel off the masking. It should leave the lens. And finally, the fuel tanks. And my usual way of doing this, so painted the fuselage color, which we'll talk about in a minute. Well, take a step back. We primed it black, then I used my splatter mask. And I've done this many times before. Check out my Prowler video. Splatter mask, just basically put it over it, sprayed it with some white, actually to be honest with you, some leftover grey, and then mist it over the fuselage color, and then lightened it a little bit. And finally, with some red brown, sprayed the nose and a few areas around the side, very light, very little paint, just to create some of that kind of grimy look. And there's the other one. Gives you that effect. Now, fuselage colors. Now, part 1, we obviously painted the exhaust, and part of the fuselage color, we followed the instructions here, which calls for, I believe, let me check the instructions, we'll see one more time. It called for all over 16440 gold gray. That is incorrect, and it should be dark ghost gray, believe it or not. So the whole thing is 307 guns, dark ghost gray, which is FS 36320. So used that for the main color, and then came back and just lightly post shaded with some light ghost gray, which I think is 308. Yeah, 308 guns color. Now, shout out to Brian over at Gunfighter Models. He's my subject matter expert. I believe he was in the Navy and worked with F-14s. He knows everything about F-14s, colors, types. He's been a great help, not just with this project, for other projects. And he helped me out with the colors. He has all the reference pictures from the real thing. He told me about the color, and he's actually, I think he reached out to Mil-Spec to let them know that these decals are wrong in terms of interpretation. Also gave me some advice, how to get this thing to a B, obviously using the late A kit. So what I'll do is I'll put a link below to his Facebook page, and give him a like or a follow at Gunfighter Models on Facebook. And anything to do with F-14s, he's your guy. He knows absolutely everything about them. He's got thousands of reference pictures, and so appreciate the help. So shout out for Brian. So yeah, that's where we're at with all this painted. A lot of work. Again, you can kind of see why I like to do this early in the build, where my mojo's flowing. I'm excited about building the Tomcat. To get this all done, and then we can put it aside and then concentrate on the fuselage and the main aircraft. So what's left to do is with the decals next. So obviously we got, for the fuel tanks, we obviously have some decals in amongst this, and the rest we'll use the Tamiya kit decals per the instructions. So quite a few decals to go on. I'll work getting them all put on, then clear coated, and a little bit weathering, and wrap this up. Holy decals, Batman. It's a lot of decals. Probably over 100 put on these. And just if I show just the Phoenix missile here, you'll see the amount of decals on here. Ridiculous number. But yeah, most importantly, the squadron markings here on the fuel tanks went down really nicely. And yeah, we're decaled up. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of weather up a little bit. I think the missiles are okay the way they are. I think it really needs any benefit to adding any kind of wash. but definitely add a wash to the fuel tanks. So as always, Flory Models Dark Dirt wash. Just going to brush it on all over, let it dry for 20 minutes and wipe it off. And then what we'll do is it'll sit in those panel lines and create a nice kind of wash and more grime. Because again, I like to beat up my fuel tanks, because in real life they are pretty gnarly. So again, all over. And I'll do the same on the other one. Let it dry, it said 20 minutes, wipe it off, and we'll see how we look. I might do a little bit of the oils, we'll see, and then give everything a quick, like, matte, flat coat. All right, I'm done, and let me show you kind of where I'm at. So, got myself a couple of fuel tanks. Oh, sorry, it's harder. This is bent. Take these off now. They're dry. Just gave them a quick clear coat, flat clear coat, to kind of, and there we go. A couple of these did kind of peel off a little bit, so it scares me about this aftermarket decal set. This year, 2024, has been the year of bad decals for sure. But looking really good. I hope you agree. Nicely weathered. Add some nice detail there, and with the squadron marking. So we've got the fuel tanks, put right there, and then we'll bring in the one Phoenix missile we have, which is this guy. Looking pretty good. And I really like this nice assorted loadout on this. Now, I did go for a phase, I think, the past year where I wasn't doing pretty much doing on the ground kind of aggressors with like no real ordnance. So it's nice to actually get stuck in and build some missiles and stuff. A couple of sidewinders. These are all, again, all from the kit. These aren't aftermarket. And you see how beautiful they go together and the great decals. 2 sidewinders. We have a targeting pod, which actually we can now remove the mask. So I'm just get a toothpick, and on the circle here, hopefully, it should just, there we go, it comes right off. And there you can see the lens. Perfect. Perfectly round. Looking very awesome. So that's your targeting pod. Again, just with a toothpick and refresher. This is what I use. There's a couple of Mr. Hobby types. This color top is the one I use. Mr. Masking Soul R. And it lasts a lifetime. I've had this like 3 or 4 years. I better use any. Just these little, like, you know, for this kind of thing, just these little lenses and stuff, they just work absolutely perfectly. All right, now we're on to the paveways. Wait, check my instructions here. Yeah, so we got the smaller, the GBU 12, which is this guy. And we have 2 of the bigger GBU 16s. There we go. And that is it. A lot of work. I would say manpower hours, probably at least 10, if not 15 manpower hours to get those together. Probably closer to 15 hours. Again, we haven't started the main fuselage yet, so all the fun stuff like the cockpit and you know, painting up the jet, all that kind of stuff, got to look forward to still. So all this is out of the way, done. Beginning of the build, the way I like to do it. Now, real quick, just talk about the weathering. So obviously, I added the Flory Models Dark Dirt Wash. Also, the dark patches you can see on there, like the bands. As always, Aptai Long Starship Filth neat oils. Just neat oils. I've done this a gazillion times. Check like my Prowler build, or just check back in a few weeks once we get to the part with weathering. And when we actually weather the aircraft itself, we use the same methods and the same products. So I'll go into it in detail then. On this part, I don't really need to talk about it. I did add a bit of black wash, just some of the fins, very weak. Some of these ordnance. Just pick out some panel lines and stuff too, which you can barely see it. But yeah, there we go. So that is it. Another part done. Back next time, and next time we'll do my favorite thing in modeling right now, which is the cockpit tub with a Quintus Studios set. And to give you a sneak preview as I rummage through the box here, it is this wonderful stuff, which somebody called me out on one of my video builds recently and said it's waste of time watching a stupid video. All you do is glue them on, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it's absolutely beautiful detail and something I really enjoy doing. So we'll be doing that next week, getting a cockpit tub put together and possibly pilots painted too, because if I go, I'm not decided yet, but if I do go with a catapult configuration, I'll have a couple of pilots in there which come in the kit. So we'll paint those up too. So that's for next time. So thank you for watching. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you next time.